Auburn has just fallen to Georgia Tech by the score of 12-8 in a late inning heartbreaker. Let's talk about that game, look back at the Texas A&M series, and look ahead to Texas A&M in our midweek check-in for Auburn baseball right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, on social media, or here at home base of YouTube. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time talking about this particular topic. Auburn baseball midweek check-in. We usually get together right after the ending, sad or happy ending of the baseball game. We get together and talk about what we just saw. Obviously, what we experienced with the series previously this weekend at Texas A&M, and look ahead to Alabama. All that's in store tonight. Would love to hear some of your commentary as well as we get into things tonight, so don't be shy. You can start off, as we always do, by using this as your check-in period. Right now in the chat, please do post where you're watching from, your city, your state, international. Let us know who's here and where you're watching from. We always like to see where everybody's checking in from. We had somebody not check in, but at least say, hey, from Panama the other day. That was pretty cool. So always love to see those. Also, smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content. It does help the stream out as well. That is very, very much appreciated all the time. Devin's here. Good to see you, Devin. He says, love Will Cannon. I know that home run sucked, but man, he did a good job getting us to the extra innings and giving us a chance. You could make. Let me set the table. Let me start there. Devin's got a good point, but let me set the table for those of you that didn't watch the game. Auburn just fell to Georgia Tech in their midweek matchup, 12-8. Came back from several deficits, but the most significant one, 7-3. Took the lead 8-7 in the bottom ninth, gave up the lead for a tie, and then battled for the next inning or so, but it was just not enough, as eventually Will Cannon, even masterfully getting out of a bunch of trouble early on, gives up a walk-off grand slam. I don't know if there's anything much worse than a walk-off grand slam from a pitcher's perspective. And I'm not a pitcher, so I can't speak to that, but I can just imagine giving up the win, giving up a home run for giving up that win, but also giving it up in that fashion with a grand slam, I've got to imagine is one of the worst feelings that you can do. So, but that you don't take that away from what he was able to accomplish as well, getting us to that point. Without him, we're not at that point. You could also make the same case for Bryson Ware, who let a ball get past him in the bottom of the ninth over there at third base, but the inning before that, he gave us the lead. So it's just kind of one of those things. Even the announcers talked about it. 1 second in baseball, you're the hero. The next second, you're not the GOAT, as in the good GOAT, but you're the butt of the joke. So that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. So it's all about looking at the holistic picture of how this team performed tonight. And I think there's a lot of things that obviously Auburn fans will be frustrated with, some common themes that we've been seeing throughout the entire season with pitching struggling, the offense continuing to keep up. Let me go ahead and just say this right here again. I know as the losses continue to mount right now, or at least the inconsistency of wins to losses is building, there's a propensity for us as fans to start to check out, become frustrated. But what I continue to ask of the Auburn family is to take a look at what this team does every time, majority of the time, that they face adversity in terms of giving up a huge lead. They're able to battle back right in it, and if not take the lead, put themselves right in a position to be able to win that. So from that alone, I think you should still continue to support and watch this team, because there is no game that they are truly outside of that Georgia game from where it was 14 runs in one inning. That one still gives me the willies there. But Auburn is only able to get a lead tonight in the bottom of, or the top of the ninth, and then obviously gave that right back up with the tie. Your final stat line tonight: 8 runs for Auburn, 12 for Georgia Tech. 8 runs on 13 hits for Auburn, 12 runs on 12 hits for Georgia Tech's. 2 errors by Georgia tonight, and they left 9 on base. We left 8. It's really interesting too when you kind of juxtapose this ending to the previous inning, because usually, as has been the case of late, we played Georgia at least once in the year, and usually typically twice, one home, one away. They were at home with us. We beat them in extra innings in a walk-off situation, not as probably exciting or thrilling as that one, but they returned the favor. So I really love this Georgia Tech series, I want to call it, even though it's not a series, because it just feels like when it's one of those midweek series that you play multiple games of. I really like playing this every year and going to Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and then obviously hosting them at Auburn. It's a lot of fun, and you can see it's usually pretty entertaining. I think I'll quote my friend. Well, I don't know if I'm quoting him, but Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database, who said, "Magic or just stuff happens in Atlanta, man." And there's been a lot of good history. I'm sure some bad as well for Auburn and Atlanta. Tonight is one of those nights where it was not good history. I did consider going to the game tonight. I don't live too far from Georgia Tech's campus, but we had some other things we had to get done around the house here, so I made the call, and I was kicking myself for not going at one point the way this thing looked like it was going to end. Obviously, now the decision feels a little bit better, but it would have been an exciting game to be at. And let me just say this: Georgia Tech's baseball stadium. I've not been in a ton of them, but that stadium and the view you have, especially kind of the sunset, the skyline of Atlanta in the background, it's a beautiful thing. It's a really, really, really beautiful thing. Devin says that the pitching is just so bad. We talk about it all the time, but it's just the bad spot on this team. And we've talked about this previously, Devin, that there are reasons behind why it's struggling. You don't have your ace. You've had some other injuries and some other pieces that probably should have been there that have left you really lacking for some consistent and solidified pitching at times. These guys are trying their hardest. You got a new pitching coach. I also see a lot of people saying that, we need to bring Tim Hudson back. And sure, why not? I'd love to have Tim Hudson back. For my knowledge, that's not happening. But I do think that rushing to judgment just off of 3/5 of a season is a little bit rushed right now. Let's just wait and see what happens. I always support the team and watch every game I can. No matter how painful. Just love these kids. Well, they're kids. I can say that they're kids now, because there was a time when I was started doing this about 9 years ago, where I was not too much older than all of these student athletes. And I was like, I can't call them kids. Now I can. This has been almost a decade I've been doing this. Even though we don't play Georgia Tech in football, we could start making this a thing and do a Rec Tech parade every time they come to Plainsman Park in the future. I'd like to see that going. I'd like to see a lot of things that we do with other sports and other rivalries in sports carry over into this side of things, into like the baseball side of things. Translate them over to what works for you. All right, so we can continue to talk about that, walk through some of the stats tonight if you'd like to, and I will do that. There's also the Texas A&M series. To me, is like this weekend was a bit of a wash, literally. Outside of the Frank Thomas statue, which we've posted the live stream for you of that, we will probably be doing some other discussions of that with some personalities later on, hopefully. It was 8-day weekend, so there was really, I do apologize for not getting out the video series that we do usually weekly, breaking down the need to know things from each weekend series, but it just did not work out with everything else going on, Buc-ee's and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's why we're kind of covering some of this here. If there's anything you'd like to talk about from Texas A&M, obviously we can do that, but I would imagine most of you do not want to discuss that one tonight. Let's look at some of the highlights from this particular game. I think you look no further than Bobby Pierce. 5 for 5 on the night was Bobby Pierce. Absolutely outstanding. 1 RBI, 1 double, 1 triple, a home run away from the cycle. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding performance by Bobby Barrows. He was not the problem tonight. Cole Foster, 1 for 6 tonight. Ike Irish continues to be solid in that 3 spot in the batting lineup. 3 for 4. Stanfield tonight came in as a pinch runner, it looks like. Yeah. Bryson Ware 1 for 4 with that blast out into center to give the Tigers the lead at one point. Cole McMurray with 0 for 4 in the night. Justin Kirby was 0 for 5. I got that backwards there. 1 for 5 for Justin Kirby. Josh Hall came in. Kason Howell 1 for 4. Nate LaRue 0 for 3. Cam Hill came in a pinch run. Catcher was Wright tonight in well, actually, he came in a little bit later, but Caden Green at second base tonight, too. Can we also talk about, if we're going to talk about the good things that did happen tonight, up until the last pitch, Will Cannon was going beautifully. Bobby Barrels tonight with his 5 for 5 night. And we also, I think it was Green, and I guess it would be, who made that beautiful double play to turn what would have been a disastrous inning in the bottom of I think it was the 6th, had bases loaded and like nobody out. And they did get a run in on this play, but we got a beautiful double play turn by Green. And I guess it would have been Foster over there to salvage that inning and only give up 2 runs on that particular inning. That was absolutely crucial. You like the idea of the Rec Tech parade for baseball? Would bring a lot of campus attention to the team. I think there's a lot of room to improve the pageantry around a lot of the sports that is not being done right now. Brian, thanks for checking in with us from a 80-degree Minnesota. It is warmer up there than it is down here. That is crazy. Devin says, I know there's a lot of games left to play, but we need to start showing some sign of turning it around, but only time will tell. I do like that you bring that up, and that's kind of where I wanted to go, Devin, really quickly, and the announcers kind of alluded to this tonight, for either Auburn or Georgia Tech, whoever won this game, does this kind of kickstart your season, the rest of your season? And I would say that tonight would have been the best way to start off what could be a very successful stretch for Auburn baseball. Alabama, you're going there this particular weekend. It's going to be tough at their place, but obviously they look like one of the, in a very tough SEC in general, one of the more beatable teams in SEC baseball right now. Follow that up with Mississippi State at home, and then you go to South Carolina. But for the next 2 weeks, if Auburn can take care of business in the midweek games, if Auburn can win both series and maybe sweep one of those series, that's a really good turnaround to set yourself up for the rest of the challenging SEC schedule. But it's still going to be tough. Obviously, the pitching continues to be an issue. The offense can keep up somewhat. We'd like to have some games here where the offense just needs to give them enough and the pitching can hold it down for them. But we'll remain to see if that's going to happen. WT points out that this might be a bridge year to a bigger success next year. If you listen to a lot of the commentary on that at the beginning of the season, you would have heard some of that from the coaches, from just people that know more than we do about the game of college baseball, that this was, regardless of who or who wasn't going to play or who got injured, that this might be a bit of a bridge season. And yes, I agree. Being an optimist at fault is a fault that is worth having here. Kevin, our champion of optimism, already calling that we'll beat Alabama on Friday night and sweep the series. That's what I like to hear, Kevin. Love it. Love it. Sometimes losses like this are the spark to charge a team for winning the end of the season. So in my mind, and I think that's a great way, and we'll start rounding out our discussion here tonight on in kind of this note. What you would like to think and hope is that the loss here kind of puts things in perspective for this team. This is now 2 midweek games in a row that you've taken losses, UAB and now Georgia Tech, that you really, really need to ask yourself what's going to happen the rest of the season. Are you going to get this thing turned in the right direction, really lean into a more manageable next 2 weeks, and get the thing turned in the right direction? Because you never know what happens. Maybe this pitching staff really just needs a little bit of a confidence boost to show the next 2 weeks that they can be, more reliable and maybe see what happens from that point. So yes, sometimes losses can help, but sometimes they can be momentum killers as well. Addison Brooks, Ole Miss fan, it looks like, says, hello, fellow Alabama haters. Well, we're the kings of Alabama hating, but and queens of Alabama hating, but I will take that fellow despising of the Tide and welcome you into the midst here. Any thoughts on the Auburn Tigers from an Ole Miss perspective? Drop them in here. And as well, anybody else watching, if you got any final comments or questions just about this game, the Georgia Tech loss 12-8, the series of Texas A&M and looking ahead to Alabama, get them in right now, and we'll hit them rapid fire at the end. Couple reminders for you. Don't miss tomorrow night, Back in the Saddle, Auburn Family Night. It's our live call-in show where we talk about anything. It can be all about sports. It can be about Bucky's. It can be about anything that's going on around Auburn. Don't miss it tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Been doing that since the dawn of time and would love you to be part of that tomorrow night. If you haven't, please do subscribe so you can be part of that giveaway. Like I was hinting at, we're probably going to lower the parameters of when we were going to announce that winner. So make sure you jump in on that. If you have not done so, you can be a channel member. You can be a Booster Club member. All of those links in the description are ways that you can help support us here at E2C Network by following something, by signing up to be a financial supporter in some way. You don't have to do any of that, but we would appreciate if you at least check that out and just see if it's something you might be interested in. And we just appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Addison Brook, we're not talking football, so come back another night. I'd love to hear your perspectives about that and hear why you think that. So please come back tomorrow night, even though it's an Auburn show, but we're going to keep it to baseball here tonight. Sad. Let's see. My oldest is getting married Saturday. Wedding madness kicks off tomorrow. Sad to Ole Miss family night. Excited for her. Yeah. Love the Auburn family night shows. I love them too because they're some of the best nights that we have here. But anyway, so it looks like we've covered everything that we need to baseball. Again, reminder, 8-12, your Tigers fall to Georgia Tech after dropping the series to Texas A&M and a heartbreaker there. We will be back next Tuesday to talk about midweek check-in, but we'll also be following along as they take on Alabama this weekend and hopefully getting a series win, maybe even a series sweep. You never know. This could be, as we've talked about, the thing that turns it in the right direction. Till we talk to you again, we appreciate you all being here, and War Eagle.